If you registered online, you received a social media packet, but please follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook at Mawazo Institute. Some of our hashtags for the day are IWD 2024, Inspire Inclusion, Research to Realization, and Investing in Women. You can find these on our website, so when you scan the QR code, you'll find them available. Huh? Yeah, what is I can't repeat everything I've said. Okay. Stand here? Okay. Yes. And, and so without further ado, I'd like to introduce our Director of Finance at the Mawazo Institute to come and give a welcome address and a summary of some of the discussions we had over the week. Just to say that we'll be having the panel discussion, then we'll have a Q&A from the audience, after which we'll have a coffee break where you'll have an opportunity to interact with some of our fellows here who are doing these amazing research innovations. And then we'll move out to a brief workshop discussion of some of the highlights we saw over the conversations we had this week, and then a final presentation and closing. Over to you, Liz.
Thank you so much, Helene. Good morning, everyone. You all look amazing from where I am. And it is so wonderful to see so many women in this room today with beautiful, beautiful smiles. By the way, did you know your smile and then eye contact, those two, that's where networking starts from. So look at your neighbor with that beautiful smile. Maintain some eye contact. That is exactly how networking begins. Because we talk about having the women researchers network, it's not hard. Smile, eye contact, let it flow. So honored to partner with you to counter in, invest in women, and accelerate progress. My name is Elizabeth Ngala. I am the Director of Finance at the Mawazo Institute. Welcome to our panel event and workshop in investing in women innovators from research to realization. Thank you to everyone joining us online today via YouTube live stream. I don't know if it's this camera or, you know, the way they ask which camera for the live stream. Okay, we want to really thank you for joining us and everyone who participated in our exciting workshops this week. So far we've had 2 virtual workshops, which are very amazing. So the journey to today's event has been interesting and very exciting, and one whose genesis was a simple question. So you see, at Mawazo is known for questions, and rightfully so, as our company name is derived from the Swahili verb kuwaza, which means to think. We like to think at this organization, and we like to ask the hard questions. That's what we do at Mawazo. And so I'm going to tell you a story, and you know how we start with storytelling. So we go story, 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 story. In Swahili, we say hadithi, 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 hadithi. We'll ask questions after this story. So Mawazo was founded in 2016 by 2 friends, Dr. Rose Mutiso, a hardcore material scientist, and Rachel Strom, a passionate social scientist. These 2 friends brought their brilliant minds together to ask the difficult question: why are African women underrepresented in the research and academia ecosystem? And in their experience, they saw that research on the continent was missing the unique voices and perspectives of women. This strong problem statement led to an understanding of the challenges faced by African women researchers, such as the lack of access to research funding and career and also professional development opportunities. Actually, research funding opportunities is a big challenge to African women researchers. So let's take fast forward now to 2021. I hope you're all following the story. And our current CEO, Dr. Fiona Muyez, hi Fiona, found herself in a similar hard question-asking position. Sitting among startup ecosystem players and being exposed to the jarring statistics on women, only 7% of funding by venture capital firms went to women-led ventures in 2023. And actually, there was another study in 2022 in the US that showed only 2% of funding by venture capitalists went to women-led organizations. And so she wondered, why are women underrepresented in the startup ecosystem? And more importantly, why were women researchers considered as potential startup founders? She knew from working with the amazing fellows in Mawazo's programs that women researchers in Africa had great ideas and were also uniquely positioned to provide distinctive solutions to Africa's biggest challenges. Around this same time, conversations around research and commercialization were happening in academia. So the Technical University of Kenya and Kenyatta University, known as KU, among other high education institutions in the country, set up innovation centers to encourage the movement of research from academy to industry. It was in these research and commercialization conversations, or research to realization, as we say it at Mawazo, that we found ourselves asking another hard question. Why isn't industry taking up research innovations? So as fate will have it, during a wonderful conversation with Sarah Kanda of the Global Energy Alliance of People and Planet, we found ourselves reimagining the role that women researchers play in the innovation ecosystem. The role was further validated by Taylor Carahalios of Delta 40 over a short lunch meeting, which had us discuss ways to deliberately link women researchers to the industry. Over the last 2 days, we have heard from different players in the research and innovation ecosystem. In our first event that was on Tuesday, the virtual event, we sought to understand the challenges faced by African women researchers in engaging with the innovation ecosystem. And then in our second event, which was yesterday, a virtual event, we tried to understand what industry needs for researchers. And then today, still flowing with the same spirit, we are going to bring everyone into one room to create synergies for collaboration between the research and innovation ecosystems. So we welcome you all to engage in today's discussions and partner with us in building an African-centered, research-driven world. So it's going to be an amazing day. And remember, keep your smile and some eye contact. Karibuni. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz, for that wonderful introduction. Thank you, Liz, for that wonderful introduction. And now we'll kick off our panel discussion. I'd like to welcome to the stage our Director of Programs at the Mawazo Institute, Dr. Caroline Mose. I'd also like to invite our panelists for the day, Sarah Kanda of GIAP, Tyler Carahalios of Delta 40, Dr. Pamela Mreji of the Technical University of Kenya, and Dr. Susan Musembi of Kenyatta University. Karibuni.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to start behaving like a pastor. Mic testing. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us, and it's very lovely and very nice to see you. Karibuni sana. I see some of our fellows, some of our alumni, and our guests. Karibuni sana. So we are going to kick off without any further ado. With me on the stage, as you have heard, I'll start from the far end, is Dr. Pamela Mreji from the Technical University of Kenya, where she's the director at the Center for Innovation and Technology Transfer. Next is Dr. Susan Musembi, a lecturer at the KU, the Kenyatta University. To my right, I have Sarah Kanda from GIAP, which is the Global Energy Alliance for People and Planet. And then we have Tyler Karahalios, who is at Delta 40, where she serves as Chief of Staff. So these are our guests who have joined us here, all players within the education and research and innovation ecosystem, and we are going to have a very nice, very interesting chat. And then we will invite you after that if you've got any comments, if you've got any questions, if you want any further clarifications, you will feel free to ask those questions. So I'm going to start with a very simple question for all of us, and we're going to start with you, Tyler. How would you describe yourself, or how do you respond to the question, what do you do?
Ooh, I love
Perhaps those are two
question.
questions. Yes.
Is this? I project. It's okay.
How do I describe myself? Well, first I want to say it's such an honor to be here and with all of you. I feel like the most undereducated person in the room, but it's incredibly empowering. I describe myself as energetic and outdoor loving and a people person. What I do as my day job is a little bit different. I work at Delta 40. It's a climate-focused venture studio and VC fund. So we invest in and support entrepreneurs building across energy, agriculture, and sustainable food systems, and climate fintech. So we come in with equity investment and then provide up to 2 years of very tailor-made, bespoke, hands-on support to enable early-stage founders to build and ultimately scale their businesses.
Thank you so much. To prevent us from going in lines, I'm going to go to the other side and ask you, Dr. Pamela, the same questions. How do you describe yourself, and how then do you respond to the question, what do you do?
Okay. You working? Hello? Yeah. So I would describe myself as a woman go-getter. Yeah. So someone who'll go outside there and get what I want, and probably I would say that is the reason why I am where I am today. Because I believe as women, we just have to go outside there and get what we want. Now, what do I do? Basically, I help entrepreneurs, and mostly women, to commercialize new inventions, new ideas, research. So basically, probably the reason why I'm here. So that is what I do on a day-to-day basis. You hear I'm the director for innovation and technology transfer. In the technology transfer sphere, basically that is what we do. We transfer technologies wherever they may be, from the technology developers to the technology users. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Then we'll now come back to this other side, right? So for you, Sarah, same question. How would you describe yourself, and then what do you do?
So my name is Sarah Kanda. I would describe myself as someone who's always curious to try out new experiences, new opportunities, keep learning, because I believe once you keep doing that, that's how you're able to be, I guess, you move out of your small circle of influence and you're able to expand your way of thinking. So I'm always trying to get to new experiences, explore new things, learn new topics, like being here with many doctors. So just trying to keep learning, stay curious, stay eager to always learn more and learn how to interact, I guess, with more people. As to what I do on a daily basis at the Global Energy Alliance for People and Planet is it's mainly three things. So one is supporting the work that we do around supply side interventions, which is pretty much when we supply the power, it's not always automatic that economic development happens. So that's the work that we do. It's ensuring that we're providing the energy poor communities with the right kind of resources, whether it be financing, whether it be mentorship or training, pretty much whatever it is that allows them to translate that energy into economic development. The other thing I do is ensuring that we are creating jobs in this new green transition. So we've had a lot of talk about this green transition. It means that people are losing out on jobs, and new jobs are being created. Where are these opportunities? So we work with the team in trying to identify where these opportunities are, how we can maximize on these opportunities, and who we need to be talking to ensure these opportunities come to life. And the third thing, and maybe the most important one that I love the most, is the gender work within the organization. So it's ensuring that we stay gender intentional, so not just setting a bunch of targets and quotas around the number of women we want to reach. It's ensuring that within our internal processes, within the partners we work with, we're trying to ensure that the issue of gender is always at the forefront of the work that we do. Yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Thank you so much. And then finally for you, Dr. Musembi, same question. How would you describe yourself and what do you do?
Thank you. I'm happy to be here, to be in an amazing team of women scientists, so to say, and I am so impressed. I think this is the first gathering I've ever sat in where there is this collection of women scientists. So kudos to all of you. And I'm proud to be one of you. So how do I describe myself? A sponge that just loves information, seek information, find information. And I think in my life, the one question that has driven my life is why. Every single day I ask myself, why is this like this? Can I challenge it? Can it be different? That is who I am. So what do I do on a daily basis? I am a molecular biologist by training, and my research interests are in developing improved vaccines and diagnostics, and particularly targeting low-resource settings. How do I do this? By employing biotechnology. So that is my training, that is my background. I have a passion to train. And I won't just say young people. I have a passion to train anyone who needs to learn. I do not choose whether you're young or old, man or woman. You want to learn, you're my best friend. So what do I do on a daily basis? I'm a lecturer and a researcher in molecular biology and biotechnology, currently affiliated to Kenyatta University, the School of Pure and Applied Sciences, Biochemistry Department. That is where I lecture and also have the mandate to conduct research in my area of interest. But I do also wear another hat, and this is as a mentor and innovation trainer at Kenyatta University Innovation Incubation Center. And while there, I'll put it in a very simple way. What do? I work with academic researchers, junior, where I talk of the junior being the students, postgraduate students, undergraduate students, as well as the faculty. And I have only one mission, to get them to move from tech speak to business speak. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We will come back to you on that, from tech speak to business speak, because I think that's the essence of what we are here to discuss, because there appears to be a gap in what we do as researchers and how do we translate that into business speak, as you've said. But to come back to you, Tyler, Delta 40 is working to build a network of Africans working to solve climate impacts. Could you tell us more about your experience working with African women entrepreneurs?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to share a little bit about Dr. Linda Davis. So she's one of the founders in our portfolio. She's the founder of Giraffe Bioenergy, which is building Kenya's first cassava to bioethanol biorefinery for domestic production of clean cooking fuel. So we have gone out to market and specifically looked to invest in female founders. And we've heard a lot of the things that it sounds like you all were discussing the last 2 days. It's risky to make the leap to entrepreneurship. The skills you have might not always translate to starting a really early stage venture. Oftentimes there are families to support, and entrepreneurship doesn't necessarily start with the same financial package that you might have at your academic institution or in your corporate role, or however you're kicking butt, as the amazing ladies that are in this room today. And so we have tested a handful of different models. We originally started offering stipends to help incentivize women to come into entrepreneurship and make the leap and de-risk that a little bit and give folks the opportunity to test their ideas. We're now launching an entrepreneur in residence program exclusively for women. It's a small group. And to see, and it's part-time, to see how that degree of support, how that small community, and how that training has an impact on whether women decide to make the leap into entrepreneurship. I'm very excited that we have 2 Mawazo fellows joining us. We're so fortunate. Yeah, I know, it's really great. But I will say it's tricky. I mean, I'd be lying if I didn't say, you know, less than 5% of venture capital funding last year went to all-female teams, right? There is absolutely a gap in financing for women, but increasingly there are more and more equity funders that are looking to back and invest in women, largely also because the research, we all love research, the research shows that women-run businesses do better than their all-male counterparts. More revenue and EBITDA per dollar invested, more women in the workforce, like more female employees, right? On so many metrics that are important to us. So I guess all of that to say, we're still learning what it takes to help catalyze women into entrepreneurship. We're very excited to continue learning with all of you and to take some of these lessons. But we are trying to take a different approach in terms of providing capital and providing really bespoke, hands-on support so that women have a partner in their entrepreneurial journey and a community of women, and they're not in it alone.
I think I'm quite excited to hear about this bespoke, you know, because as women, we tend to see interventions coming for us that are very, you know, they're very structured in a certain way that may not necessarily respond to the context of women. So that's very exciting. I'll come back to you just now. Daktari, Pam.
Which one?
The one at the far end. The one at the, I'm sorry. There are so many here, but the one at the far end, so that we are For you, Dr. Pamela, in terms of, you are the Director of Innovation and Tech Transfer at TUK. Yeah. Could you please share some of the questions women researchers ask that come through your institution?
Okay. So basically, Technical University of Kenya is the first university of technology in the country. And so it has a specific mandate, which is to lead the technological transformation of Kenya as aligned in the Vision 2030, where we want to transform Kenya into a newly industrial country by 2030. So it has a very specific mandate. So my work goes up to the government level where we have to give quarterly reports on what we are doing to ensure technological development in the country is happening. We have a lot of engineering courses. It's actually, for most people, you've heard about Kenya Polytechnic. The Technical University is actually Kenya Polytechnic. It has alumni of technology-led people in the country and even abroad. But why am I saying this? We have engineering courses which are very well advanced, and we have female engineering students. And they're almost half-half compared to the not boys, the men, student men. Yeah, so male students. So what happens, what is strange is that I'm the head of what we call the Innovators Club at the university, where now the kind of innovations that come from Technical University are more of inventions. They come from the engineering students. You know, there is difference between the invention and the other innovation, social innovation and all. So we have inventions, a lot of great things going on, bicycles that can grind maize as you move with it. We have tuk-tuks that can utilize used oil. We have a lot of things going on in the university. But anytime I call for innovators to send them somewhere to represent the university, out of the 20 that are going to come to that room will be the boys. And so the question that I keep asking is, where are our female innovators in this university? You are equally represented in class as engineering students, but anytime we ask for the innovators, to be honest, out of 20 or whatever number I'll ask for, they will all be male. The female ones, I would actually have to go back and say, now I need affirmative action. Any female that has anything that we can work on so that we send them for this. I had a British Council project last year where I really had to work with one of the female day and night for them to actually be able to showcase that we have this happening. So basically what I'm trying to say, our office, you find more of the male students come to ask about intellectual property. How do I protect my intellectual property? How do can I be connected to someone in industry who can give me funding? Dr. Mreji, where do they get? The female don't come. They do not come. So this particular question would then go back to, what do innovators come to us for in my office? So this is a technology transfer office. Intellectual property is based there, teaching you how to protect your intellectual property. And the process is so simple. Many of them live there and they're like, you mean it's just like that? Like I go online and I fill forms and that's it. I've started my process. Many of them think it's this very big giant in the room. So what I'm trying to say here is that those female innovators hardly come. The innovators who actually come are the male, and one of my biggest role is to ensure the lady innovators, the ones who have those ideas, by the way, they don't even call themselves innovators. That's the interesting part. They don't call themselves, if you call them innovators, they feel they are not innovators. They feel they have ideas, but the men will call themselves innovators even when they are not innovators, you know? That is just who they are. Why I tell them you're not innovator, for the simple reason is innovation is an idea when it is successfully commercialized. Many of them have inventions, but they call themselves innovators. So the male are always, but I'm an innovator. I say, no, until you commercialize it, you are an inventor. So they find it. But what I'm trying to say is there is this disconnect for our female researchers, even in the university in general, I try to encourage entrepreneurship among researchers. The men will side chat me. They will look for me. They'll say that, oh, yeah, you remember the talk you gave us about our ideas going into commercialization. When can we meet? The female will hardly do that. But interestingly, when they now sit down and you put them, their ideas are more transformative if they are commercialized. That is what I would say. Thank you.
Asante, Doc. I'm very interested in what you've said around even the use of language. Being a social scientist, you were saying you felt like the least educated. I used to work at the technical university and I used to feel that way because everyone was either an engineer or a biochemist or something of the sort. I'm a social scientist and I've studied languages. And it's very interesting when you say how men front themselves, how language has evolved, that even back in the day when you say doctor inside a hospital, for example, you would imagine it's only the men who are doctors. So you would even approach a cleaner who is a man and call him Daktari. And the one who is the doctor, who is the woman, you would probably think she's the nurse or something like that. So there's a way language has also has evolved over time, such that women innovators don't see themselves as innovators, when indeed they're innovators. So I think there's also some work to be done there. But to come back to Sarah, GUP is unlocking energy access for Africans. Tell us more about your role in Africa's transition to renewable energy and how it relates to the continent's economic development.
Yeah, that's a big question. So, but yeah, so I think even looking back at how GUP was formed back in COP 26, I think that was 2021, the very basis of how we were formed was to tackle that very issue of energy transition. So to this day, we still have globally about 3.6 billion people who don't have access to energy. So it's the existential crisis of our time compared to, well, similar to climate change. So we have to tackle it together. So we came together as an alliance and we saw that, yes, we've had gains over the past couple of years. And looking at the data you see in terms of the amount of renewable energy that's there in our grids or even in mini grids in Africa, as well as the number of people right now who have access to energy in the past couple of years compared to before has increased. But the problem is the pace is still not fast enough. It's been very slow, and we're still suffering from the effects of climate change. We can see them all over. So we came together as an alliance to figure out how can we come together and bring together the different kinds of expertise, the different kind of finance to tackle this challenge, right? Because clearly at the pace we're going and the trajectory we're going, we're not going to be achieving our SDG goals, we're not going to be achieving the net zero ambitions that we have set out in the Paris Agreement. So what did we do? We set up this alliance. It's collaboration of different stakeholder partners, the World Banks, the IFCs, the USA. So pretty much everyone who's in the sector who's trying to make a difference with regards to energy access and the green transition, right? And our main role, I think I'd say, is in three key things. So one, we work with government. So there's government enablement part of our work. Because if you're going to be doing any sort of changes within any country, you always have to start with the government. You need the right kind of policies to ensure that you're getting the right kind of work done. If you want to implement the right kind of programs, you need to be getting the right kind of money in, and you need the government to set the right enabling environment. That's where we start. So the next thing we do is we work with different partners around bringing the right kind of capital. So whether it be the private side of investment, whether it be the DFI, so just ensuring that we are providing the right kind of capital to help us in this green transition, to implement the right kind of programs that are going to get us to where we want, to get us the right kind of jobs, the right kind of opportunities and such. And the third thing is that focus on the market shaping, the ecosystem shaping. So working with SMEs, for example, it's getting those ideas. What are the ideas that we need? What are the kind of innovations? What are the solutions we need to see happening in our sector to help us as we transition to that green future? So we support these SMEs because that's where pretty much economic activity starts, funding them whatever kind of funding they need. For example, from an innovator perspective, the kind of financing you will need at that stage compared to someone else who is a bit more advanced is very different. So we'll provide that sort of what we call flexible capital to fit whatever it is that needs to be tested there. So if you're testing an idea, you don't need the kind of expensive sort of capital. You need something affordable. So you need the grants. And that's where we come in, the philanthropies, the donors. So we bring in that kind of funding at the very beginning to allow you to test that idea to see if it actually works in the market, right? And then now we transition you to the different kinds of capital for the next stage. So I'd say those are the three key areas that we believe if we keep working on them with the policies, with the right kind of funding, with the right kind of ecosystem, market support, we'll be able to really see that sort of economic development that we're hoping to see in Africa. Yeah.
Asante sana. I'll come back to you on something you've mentioned there. Daktari Susan, could you tell us a little bit more about your work as a mentor at the Chandaria Business Innovation and Incubation Center and how you facilitate industry linkages?
Thank you, Caroline. So a little bit about the Innovation Center and Innovation Incubation Center. It is an early stage incubation center. What means as an early stage idea, who are we investing in? What do you need to be a member of that incubation center? And by the way, it is the first public innovation incubation center in Kenya. Most of the other innovation incubation centers are private or semi-private or funded differently. So we were the first public innovation incubation center aiming to work with the research community, academic research community within the universities. So as an early stage innovation center, for you to participate is, one, you just need an idea. You just need an idea. Tested or not tested, you're sitting under the tree, the apple, or what would it be, mango in Kenya? Yeah, falls on your head. And you have an idea. That's what we need. Second, we work with people who are willing to see it through. What does it mean? That you need to be able to be ready to get out of your comfort zone as a researcher. I am a molecular biologist. And today as we speak, I can sit in a business meeting and discuss value propositions. What is your return on investment? Who is a venture capitalist? And for those who have been through the science training, never in your 15 years of training did you ever sit in a business class? Or if anyone did, please put up your hand. Because for me, 15 years training as a scientist, I did not sit in a business class to tell me what is return on investment. And when you're sitting with the business people, they'll throw out these acronyms. What's your MVP? What's your ROI? And so you're like, what's ROI? Yeah? So are you ready to get out of your comfort zone? Is the one thing we require the individual to be ready to. Because to get out of your comfort zone means that you will need to learn and relearn issues. You need to have a strong desire to be part of the entrepreneurial community. So, if you are of that mindset and you have an idea, we work with you. So what do we do for you? One, we provide you with an environment where you can validate your idea. Go through customer discovery. This idea, who is it for? Whose problem are you solving? Is it a problem? And who is willing to actually invest in your idea? And so, back to your question, how do we partner with industry? And here I'm going to use industry very loosely. It is just not private sector industry. You might have an idea as a social entrepreneur. You want to make an impact in this community. So, reach out. As part of your customer discovery journey is just to ask you, list 5 people. So we demystify this phrase, industry. Who is industry? Yeah, because that's a terminology that is thrown around. So here I am, I have an idea. I want to do this. So finally, who are you doing it for? Put a face to that person. And then walk with you, find that person, and make the connection. Because as Susan, I may not be able to call Unilever and tell them, I want to come and find out what it is that you do. I may have something that might benefit you. I may not be able to do that as Susan. But as Kenyatta University, I am likely to find an appointment. So we facilitate that for you, with your idea, walk with you, because now the other aspect is to coach you and mentor you, because when you go to speak to someone, you need to have the right questions, right? Because if you don't ask the right questions, you'll not get the answer to what you need. And then we also help you learn how to interact with industry. Like, for example, we always talk of your idea needs to solve a pain point. So do you know what the pain point was? And so, unfortunately, many times, we think you have the idea and you want to hammer it down your client. But no. First of all, find the client and ask them, what is your pain point? Understand from the customer's point of view, what exactly is the challenge? And then co-create the solution together. Because you have the know-how, so together you're able to co-create. And so that is how we link to industry. However, there's a very big challenge. And I have experienced this so many times. When we reach out to industry, unfortunately, not many of them are ready to open up their doors. Perhaps a researcher may have a model, an algorithm, maybe that would be useful to do inventory in a company, track flow, improve manufacturing process. But we have very few takers on board who are ready to open up their systems to test, for the researcher to test the system. So we are wondering, why? So we ask industry, why? Why will you not open up? And then they throw at us the usual, you're half-baked, and we're like, okay, how will we know what you need if you don't open up? And and let's create these solutions together. Then secondly, the other thing which also needs to be demystified is the blanket thing that is always thrown around that, oh, it takes too long for academia. And I'm like, let's dialogue. Because understand from academic point of view, our main mission is to train, educate and train. But since we're at higher level of education and training, our training ground is the world. Your company is my training ground. So if we dialogue together, we can co-create something that can be useful to everyone. I know your business is business. My business is training. But there's somewhere in between where there's an overlap. I am training for you. So kindly allow us to have access and let us co-create the project together that will be able to accommodate your interests and my interests. So would like to see a lot of industry opening up, but it is a two-way process where we need to understand each other. Industry needs to be ready to share with us their pain points, because if they do not share with us their pain points, as a researcher and in academia, honestly, I'll sit and think and create everything for everyone, but nobody needs it, right? So that's how we do connect to industry at idea level. We want to know who needs it, and then we reach out to the exact industry and ask them, let's co-create, work with the founder, work with the startup, help them pivot, co-create it. If something comes out of it, then one, you have an individual who understands your industry. Two, they have a solution which you're capable of picking up, and who is better placed to roll it out in your company than the person who worked with you. Thank you.
So then that's a perfect segue to the next question that I'm going to throw back to you, Doc. Because we are hearing about this gap between the research space and the industry. And I know we even have had debates with you. You know, when I use the word industry, I always do air quotes, because what is this, like you're saying, what is this industry? But a very simple question to you, is research moving beyond the academy on the continent?
Okay, that's a good question. This is a question that I can hardly say yes or no, but I can say to some extent. And then now from that extent, I qualify. I know that research is moving from the academy to the industry, yeah? But it's some type of research. So the question then is, how do I ensure I'm that type of research that is moving to the industry? So I'll agree with my colleague Daktari here that one of the biggest problems that we have, one thing I didn't say is that I'm actually a lecturer of entrepreneurship and innovation management, and I've done this for over 15 years. I have worked with a lot of innovators in different areas. I'm an adjunct lecturer at university where I teach corporate innovation, and I also teach innovation owner managers. So basically, one of the things that really is what this word, take it from me, it's called legitimacy. Legitimacy is what will make you go to industry and have their doors open. These people need to be able to trust you. Then when they trust you, they can then accept you. And when they accept you, then they can then support you. That if you don't follow that order, it will not work. Reason being, you are a researcher or you are an innovator who needs to prove your concept. I, as the industry, I also have certain obligations and goals. Will I want you to come and test your concept at my place? What do you need to do so that I can allow you to actually come in and test your concept at my place or with my money? Because we are both, things are tough. I have a return on investment. I have a bottom line to meet. But this thing of yours, I don't know how long it will take. So one of the biggest challenges innovators have outside here is acceptance by the top management. Whether you are in an institution whether you are a startup, the biggest challenge you're going to have is top management acceptance. You have to be so good in what you're coming to explain to us, so that within 5 minutes we have the buy-in. That, you know what, despite the fact that it's a concept, I want to be part of this. So legitimacy, legitimacy, legitimacy. And this then brings us to the women innovators. Do they have legitimacy often? They don't, because in our minds as people, in our minds as communities, the woman is meant to be doing something else outside there other than these gadgets of inventions and innovation. So as a woman, you need to do it like 3, 4 times or 5 times more for you to get that legitimacy with funders, with organizations where you want to go and test your concept, even with the innovation hubs. I know that because I've been to the Chandaria Innovation Hub with SAT, and out of the 6 innovators I spoke to, there was no single female. I don't know, maybe for that day, there was, because my research centers around gender and innovation. If you check most of my journals, it's gender and innovation. Are we getting the buy-in? Are we getting the legitimacy? So sometimes you can use your soft skills as a female researcher, as a female. Again, another problem we tend to have, women innovators tend to think they need to look like a man when they walk into that room for them to be accepted. You know, you need to probably be in a trouser and look like a man, and we can't blame them, because most of these panels are normally just men, you know. Most of these people with venture capital who want to give us this money, they're intimidating and they are men. And so I feel that maybe I need to look like a man and go with the confidence. No. You actually need to use your soft skills as a lady, the kind of attitude and our emotional intelligence. People have, they actually have it. It involves some sort of work, and most people want to do, you know, I have an idea, so let me just explain. You know, all these other things of evaluating, this takes too long. No, if you don't do that evaluation, you will be among the 80% of startups that don't see their 3rd birthday, because those are the statistics. So it is that evaluation part that is normally the toughest. It involves market research, confirming that what I think is actually a problem outside here in the industry is a problem. Then I go back to the academia to now research that problem and provide them with that solution. It starts from that gap analysis. It starts from the problem analysis. So a lot of our research, I want to be a PhD student. I ask my supervisor, what is the easiest thing to research? And this is true story. A lot of the researchers do what is easy or what is easy to publish, without actually thinking that this thing I might need to commercialize it within the Nairobi innovation ecosystem. That's where I've been doing my research for the last 1 year, where I was looking at technology transfer between academia and the small and medium enterprises. This was a tough one, because small and medium enterprises don't think they even should sit in a room with professors. Like, you call them to a room, the professors are in that corner, the whatevers are in that corner, because they're thinking, many of them would even say, oh, you've been there, even Dr. where they're saying, but we didn't even think these professors would want to hear what we do as a business. Like, I didn't even know I can take tea with a professor, and he can actually be interested in what I'm doing. So the professors were surprised too, that these startups, these SMEs have a lot of things that I can research on even with my students. So basically, we need the kind of research that actually goes to academia is the one that addresses the need, that goes to the industry, the one that addresses the need of the current problems they have. Believe me, if you're solving my problem, I will allow you to come my place and do test your concept, and even put in some money so that we co-create a solution, as Dr. was saying. Thank you.
It's very... yes, if you see me holding the microphone close to my mouth as you're talking, just know it's the cue to, yes. That will be the cue. But it's very interesting what you're saying, that most innovators don't want to do the evaluation part, which is the market research. I actually worked in market research for a number of years before I came to academia. And the main thing I found the difference between academic research and market research is that actually market research takes shorter. You can even do a research in 1 week and get results, which is how the big, the Safaricom's and the Airtels and the Unilevers are actually surviving and have managed to survive in the ecosystem. But Sarah, I'll come to you, and she answered, it depends, in a way, to my question. So I think for you, then I would ask you, in your work, if you know, in the ecosystem players such as manufacturers, incubators, accelerators, do you see these players taking up African research ideas? And how are they doing that, if at all? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. And it's very nice to listen to that side of the platform and understand the kind of challenges that you guys have with this other side of the ecosystem. But to be honest, I think I would say yes and also say no. So yes, we have seen that uptake of African innovations, but it's not enough, right? Especially by women, it's not enough. So, and as I think Dr. Pamela mentioned, I think it's Dr. Susan, she mentioned that some of this tends to be very sector specific. So it's, for example, agtech has had a lot of traction, fintech has had a lot of traction in terms of innovation, agritech. But you'll realize that it's not always the same in all sectors. For example, in the sector where I work, in the energy sector, we have innovators who have good solutions that they want to take out to the communities that we work in. But sometimes the catch here is the kind of innovation you have maybe is not very attractive to the kind of investors you need to give you that kind of money. And it's for a couple of reasons. So one, maybe it's the customer you're trying to serve. So the bottom of the pyramid customers that you work with, these are typical farmers, women, micro and small enterprises. They don't always look attractive sometimes to the financier. And financiers always have their targets as well as to what they want to reach. They look at your business model. If it's not making any financial sense, If you look at the bottom of the pyramid, most of them have, for example, challenges making typical payments. So they have competing priorities. Are you going to do your small SME? Are you going to be farming for subsistence, for food? So you have those sort of competing needs. So when you think about getting this product to them, as an investor or financier, you're already thinking, will they be able to pay back? And how long does it take to pay back? How long will it take to reach your ROIs and whatnot and whatnot? Sometimes the target market can make it not as attractive to get the kind of financing. And the other one I think would be, and I think it's been said already, does the innovation target a pain point? Is it actually addressing a problem? Because sometimes the kind of research that we do within this other academic research institute takes, I don't think it's more longer and more in-depth. And if you're looking at the kind of market, we want to see problems that are being targeted now. We want to see immediate solutions to the kind of challenges that we have now. So it's not something that we're looking towards in the future, it's now. So if, as an investor or as an ecosystem player, you have this brilliant idea, but it doesn't tick the right kind of boxes that we're looking to, then that becomes the sort of challenge. So I would say yes, it is, and some sectors are way advanced, but others are slowly getting there. I think that's the point where now companies like maybe us, the donors, the funders, people who have more friendlier money, what we call concessional capital, come in to allow you to test these sort of solutions. Because even for those in agtech and those in fintech, they all started somewhere as an idea, right? And somebody funded them, and they're able to test that idea, validate it in the market, and then they are where they are now. So it just takes time. So even in those sectors where it's still been a bit slower to catch up, I think there's still room, And that's where now we have what Dr. Susan was saying, collaboration. We start engaging and having the dialogue. Okay, we're like, these are the ideas, they're brilliant, but we need to take them to the next level. So what do we need? We need the grants to test out and validate these things now before we now take it to the next stage where you're ready for other forms of capital. So I think I would say yes, but I think there's still a huge gap, and it requires a lot of collaboration with all stakeholder partners in the ecosystem. Yeah, so we're all talking the same language.
Right.
Yeah.
I've come back to you. So recently, Mawazo piloted an industry match program with the Fishbowl Challenge, where we actually matched some of our PhD fellows with real-life, real-time innovations and startups that are ongoing. So my question to you then would be, do you see a future within the startup ecosystem where research and development are driven by technical experts such as scientists, researchers, etc.?
I love this question. Yeah, I mean, I will say some of our favorite teams are a scientific and a technical founder paired with a commercial founder. And I want to say everything we've been talking about is so important. Identifying the market gap, figuring out what the problem is, who you're solving it for, and working back to a solution from that. But you don't have to do it alone. You're not expected to know or have the skills across the entirety of a business. And entrepreneurship can be a really lonely journey. So having a commercial co-founder can be incredibly helpful. Or if you're at a research institute or in an incubator, like, you likely have access to PhDs in innovation and commercialization or corporate innovation, right? And so how can you pair with someone in that space to help you with some of this research? And I think one of the most beautiful things about being a woman is female friendship and communities of women and the way we uplift each other. And one of the challenging things about being a woman is that we oftentimes don't ask for help, and we feel like we need to do it all. But we don't need to do everything, and we like to. You wouldn't ask your commercial co-founder to get in the lab and do the research. That would be silly. They wouldn't know where to start. Right? And so I love these pairs. We have, Dr. Linda Davis spent 20 years building bioethanol refineries. We helped her find a COO and a director of agronomy to build out the cassava growing side of the business. And all that jazz. We have Node Bio is a Ghanaian plant scientist, got his PhD at Oxford, developed a novel biostimulant for crops. Spent 5 years researching it at Oxford, right? Joined with a commercial co-founder, John, who spent 10 years building mass market products in Africa. They are a remarkable duo. And they have each other, and building that together. We're actually looking at a number of technical, scientific, and commercial co-founder duos. And then we're also starting to think a lot about how do we help facilitate that? Where are there roles to do more facilitation in that area? Because really amazing innovations can go from research to realization, or I've always called it the academia to action gap. Can really bring it to life when you have both of those pairings.
Thank you so much. So then that brings me back to you, Doc. 2 questions. Then the first one is a yes or no answer. No. And then the second one, so the first question, and for me this is a very personal question. Should researchers be innovating for industry?
Yes.
Yes. All right. So then let's narrow them down to African women researchers, because we already have a challenge where African women within the research ecosystem are few, and even where they're visible, they are either ignored or they're not well facilitated. So should African women researchers innovate, or are they innovating for industry? And how does that look like? And if they're not, how should that look like?
So again, I repeat, can African women researchers innovate for industry? Absolutely yes. Absolutely yes. The other one I'll answer with a question, possibly. And I want all the participants here to take the writing pads. There's a writing pad there, and I need you to put down an answer, which I will take away today. What will it take for you to come forward and disclose what you're doing? What will it take? Because therein is the first challenge, disclosure. Our women researchers are slow to disclose what they're doing. And so even when you want to link them up to industry, you don't know what they're doing. And so how do I spend time finding industry to collaborate with you, and I don't know what you're doing? So what will you take as an African woman researcher for you to disclose? I need that answer because that is an immediate implementation in my university, so that I can get more women researchers coming to the innovation centers with their idea, because we simply don't know what the magic button to press is. We are very well populated. She said it. We have women engineers, women scientists, but the number who come to disclose is not even half of the number of the male students who disclose what they're doing. So there's a big challenge there, and the answer lies with us. What will it take for you? So what should it look like? I would like to see through the support network of women in industry, and I said my definition of industry could be in the social sector or very industry-specific sectors. If we do have women in those industries, are they willing and would they like to come forward so that we develop programs by women, for women, to be able to bridge that gap? And this is not a program where we have all the answers. Unfortunately, I cannot give you the magic, this is the way it should be. But I think the first step is, let's get together, let us dialogue, let us understand from our business perspective, whatever business it is in, whether you're in academia or you're in the or you're in industry, let us appreciate what we need to do and do it well. And then find that bridge and cross that bridge together. How that is going to look like, I do not have a perfect answer. Until we sit, we dialogue and understand each other, then we'll develop a bridge that is a win-win to cross that divide. Yeah, thank you.
You've asked the audience a question I was actually going to pose to you, Doc. How access, because you've asked what does it take for people to disclose? What does it take for them to cross over from there to here? And then, so my question to you, Dr. is, how accessible is the innovation ecosystem for women?
Okay. First, probably we need to define the innovation ecosystem. For example, we have the National Innovation Ecosystem in Kenya, where all the smaller innovation ecosystems feed into. And so, for example, let's take, currently we can say we are within the Nairobi Innovation Ecosystem, which is just interrelation of all the players and different stakeholders doing different things to ensure that knowledge, innovation, inventions actually become commercialized and money happens. So who are these people? We have currently a framework we call the quadruple helix approach. I don't like using military language, but it's simply like 5 different players we look at, let's say the government, the academia, the industry, then there is the social, the communities, which many times have been forgotten. A lot of previous frameworks use the triple helix approach, where they think there is the government, there is academia, and there is industry. So they were leaving these very important people who are now the community, because innovations are socially constructed. Innovations come from what our problems are. You will find the kind of innovations that we are doing in Kenya, what we are commercializing, it's so different from the kind of innovations that are happening in Europe. They have reached self-actualization. Their innovations is like how to cut down the amount of food, people health, and how people will not become obese, while ours will be actually how to get maize and get to eat so that we can add some weight so that the children will not have kwashiako, or that word is correct. The kwashiako is a correct word. In English. So you see, innovations are socially constructed simply because we have different problems at different stages of development. So the community, the government, the academia, the startup, the entrepreneurs, all together in the way they interrelate and support each other, that is an innovation ecosystem. Question then is, how accessible is this innovation ecosystem to the female innovators or researchers, whichever? So women, their structural problem, I think this is something we've been discussing like for the last 2 days in our online forums. It is this structural problems on the path to women to become part of this. They are ready and willing, but maybe they are not having the correct tools. They are not being empowered correctly for them to be a lively part of the innovation ecosystem, because it's a symbiotic. You must give something, and then you're also given something. So you won't just be given because you're a woman. You must be, if it's innovation that you want to be part of industry, it will be taken through the same assessment as the men, the one that are brought by your male counterparts. Because the industry that needs you people has a bottom line to meet. So they will not say because it's a female, watch out till they come, they will want you to be as good. So we need to step up in capacity building for our female innovators and researchers. We need to ensure we give a percentage. For example, I was recently doing a capacity building funding grant project where SMEs, I trained 320 SMEs. It was a clear instruction from me as a PI that 30% of the slots must be given to the female and the differently abled people. So we need to have those kinds of conversations. We need to make it accessible for them by give them an extra push, an extra platform, consciously thinking that they are likely not to be among my 320. So what do I do to ensure they actually come? So women will need these structural challenges that are there for them. They are families, so they may not come for all the training. And it's true, it actually happened during our 1-week training. Are you doing this? During our 1-week training, some of the ladies will be like, yesterday I didn't come, my child was sick. But all these things will happen. So it is accessible only if we consciously make it accessible to them. Thank you.
I'm glad you've ended with that comment. I'm glad you've ended with that final comment because I was just thinking, this is not a question to anyone, it was just a comment. Perhaps the system is so, the ecosystem is so patriarchal. So when you make these demands that that women must follow the same rules as the men, and these rules favor the men, then that just adds an extra layer of work for women. But Tyler, because we're talking about these gender disparities and this ecosystem, when we first began speaking, you did give us some very grim statistics, about how the percentages of all these businesses if the co-founders, less than 15 of our startups have a woman co-founder, less than 10% of startups in Africa have all women founded teams. So the needle appears to be moving very slowly. Is there an understanding within the ecosystem, the innovation system, of these unique gender disparities? And is that recognition leading to anything?
Yes, and I think there are hypotheses as to why there's gender disparities, many of which you've spent the last couple days talking about, some of which I mentioned, right? Like, it is inherently a risk, what was discussed earlier about feelings of the validation or having the background to be recognized as an entrepreneur, and really having that self-identity as an entrepreneur around taking care of your family, around support, and having the folks around you. And so I think you are starting to see a lot of different models and intentionality to support women in making the jump. One thing we do at Delta 40, and back to the support, is we recognize that early stage founders, including women, you can't necessarily afford an entire C-suite when you're starting off, nor do you know how to be a CFO, a COO, a CEO, a CCO, right? That all, chief marketing, et cetera, all of it. So we come in and we have in-house shared C-level services. We have an in-house CFO, in-house talent, product development, fundraising and partnerships, right? And they serve all of our portfolio companies on a fractional basis. They serve as thought partners to the founders. So this is a new model to say, hey, how does this work in helping early stage founders, and especially early stage female founders, jump in, take the leap, if they know that they have a financial backer who's coming in with support? Do we see different results in terms of the pipeline that we get access to relative to other VC funds, the number of women that come our way, the number of portfolio companies that go on to raise follow-on capital with this new model? We are really trying to reimagine how venture capital is delivered here for African founders, for female founders, for early stage founders. It's an experiment in a way. And so, yes, but to Dr. Susan's point, we also need dialogue with the research sector, right? And to better understand, what are your barriers to commercializing your innovation? Is it access to industry? Is it access to capital? Is it job security, right? And what can we do as investors, as entrepreneur supporters, to help overcome those? So, open inbox. Our office is 71 Church Road, Amani Gardens. Drop by anytime. Come talk to me, let me know, because we're really committed to addressing this. And we're very plugged into the venture ecosystem at large, and so just sharing it back out and saying, hey, male-dominated field, we're a team of female executives who have been talking with women trying to understand, here's what they're saying, and here's what we can do. So yeah, come swing by anytime.
Thank you so much for that. And even in speaking about some of the barriers, I remember, Doc, when you started speaking, you're talking about IP and all that. And one of the challenges, we even saw this in recently, where one university was actually, a Kenyan university, was saying IP of its researchers in the newspaper. And so there were questions of, are these students going to benefit from the sale? Have they been consulted? Who owns the IP? Is it owned by the university? So that now becomes an extra barrier, because I have this innovation. I developed it as a student, doing it a master's, whatever. And now I don't own it necessarily alone. It's owned by, sorry. It's co-owned by the university, and so I don't necessarily have control, rights, etc. over it. But we'll come back to that. Sarah, are there specific examples? Because when we started talking, you were saying that before anything happens, there have to be policies in place, and we know that the policy makers, the decision makers, are usually in government. So are there any policies or any examples of programs implemented to help women overcome these barriers that we're talking about, to become, so that they can become innovators and entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I think we are lucky we are in this decade, because over the past couple of decades, a lot of work has been done by previous women that has allowed us the privileges we have now. You know, so previously it wasn't always like this. So we had women in the past, organizations that have come in the past that have really fought for gender inclusion in all sorts of spaces, right? So I think that's where it really starts with government. So I know globally we have a lot of organizations that are really fighting for gender inclusion, and some of you might know, the likes of the 2X Collaborative that provide a criteria as to how organizations can adopt gender policies and mainstream them within the organization, so that it's not enough for organizations to just have a checkbox and tick that we want 20 women out of 50 people in this program. So that's not enough to just have. It's a good place to start, to have the targets and the quotas, but we have to dig deeper. You know, we have to go to these companies and help them understand. You have to be aware first, because most of these companies are not even aware that they are not gender intentional. So how do we work with this company? So beyond having the government policies, which is where it actually should start, because once you have the government policies, it really forces everyone else down that chain to comply with the government, right, around the frameworks on gender. So that's where it really starts. And then two, it's how do we work with these organizations to help them understand, one, what it is to be gender aware, how to have internal gender policies, how to integrate them within their processes, so that you're not just having a checkbox about, we have employed 10 women, that's it, we are good, check. You know, it's around understanding, how do we retain these women? So not just recruit these women, how do we retain them in these positions, whether it's women as leaders, women as entrepreneurs, how we are attracting women entrepreneurs, you know, how we are attracting women as innovators and retaining them with these organizations and wanting them in these pipelines that we have, you know, and not just having it as a target. So I think that's really where we start. So the policies could be anything to do with, for example, work-life balance. So at the end of the day, we cannot deny that as women, we do have other responsibilities and other roles to play. So how do companies come up with this kind of policies that ensure you're able to strike that balance, where you're able to still attend to your role as a mother, as a wife, and still attend to your role in research or as an entrepreneur? Policies around access to finance, which is quite a big limitation for women, either in research or even as entrepreneurs. How do we ensure that financial institutions are making it friendlier for women? You know, the kind of communities that we work in do not have access to resources or collateral that's always required for you to access financing. So how do we break these barriers for them? Is it providing, say, like a first loss guarantee to allow them to lend at concessional rates to these women, or is it removing entirely the request for collateral and the intense due diligence that's required to access this kind of capital, you know? It's policies around information, access to mentorship, access to networks, access to training, because as we've heard, it's, you know, for you to make the shift from research and academia, there's always that training and mentorship that you need to become an actual entrepreneur. So it's setting up policies that support women in breaking these barriers and providing them access to that finance, access to training, to mentorship, to the networks, and most importantly, which we cannot avoid, is the work-life balance for women. We cannot deny that, to be honest. Yeah.
I'm thinking about you, you know, as you're speaking of policies, we are now within the space where we are also saying policies need to be informed by research as well. So that they have that flexibility, because I remember when the 2/3 gender rule was created, it became very fixed. As long as a third, if we have 10 people, as long as 3 people are women, we are done, let's keep it moving and we will retain it that way. So also thinking about how research itself informs policy and how policy also informs research. Daktari, Pam, do the current public policy frameworks, because now that's what we're talking about and we are winding up now, so I will ask that we also try to distill to distill this, because I'm being flagged and being told we're running out of time. Do the current public policy frameworks encourage tech transfer? And if they don't, what needs to happen for that, for that tech transfer to be supported through public policy?
Yeah, I think I've done several recent public policy reviews, especially to do with innovation and technology transfer in the country. And what has come out clearly is we have very good books about policies. It's the dissemination and implementation that is the challenge. These things are there. Documents at KIPI, KIPRA, NACOSTI, they have these things on their shelves. We've gone through them. They are good. They have all that we need to have. Problem is dissemination. They are not reaching the people who actually implement. So it is the implementation that is the challenge. And so if we are to sort out this, and then the other biggest problem we have with the public policy to do with innovation, technology transfer, it's institutional gaps. We have weak institutions in the country, institutions that have people in them, but not with the correct capacity. Like, a lot of people had innovation, but they probably don't know the technical aspects of innovation. So they will not be able to implement it in the right way. So there is the low-hanging fruit is capacity building, starting all the way from the people who actually form those policies, taking them for training anytime we have grants as researchers. We do get grants to do this. We need to call them into rooms, have conversations here in the room right now. Some people from the public offices would be here, getting to hear what our female researchers and innovators talk about and find ways on how that can be incorporated into their next policy review cycles. So it is about capacity building right from the top up to the lowest points. Yeah, thank you.
It's interesting, you talking about that gap in what gap? Institutional
gaps, yeah.
Yes, on a very light note, I saw the senator tweeting yesterday that the head of Nairobi's disaster management is a pastor.
That is
in theology, so yeah.
Exactly that one. That's what I'm referring to.
Yeah, so as we also wind up, in terms of this flow of information, because the policies exist on paper.
They do.
But bringing them down to, things up here are good, but on the ground, there's a gap.
They don't even, now the people who need to use them don't even know that they exist because they're in the libraries of those institutions that created them.
Or, yes, exactly. So for you, Sarah, what needs to be done to encourage that flow of information between research, for example, and innovation ecosystems? How do we increase that collaboration so that we don't keep talking about the gap, because the researchers are there, the innovators are there, the ecosystem is here. So how do we keep reducing these gaps?
Okay, I think on a good note, I think it's good to hear that we have the link between the incubation centers and the academia and research institutions, because that's where it starts. It's having that lab at the university level and not outside, because that will be able to translate the thesis, the PhDs, and all that research goes directly into that incubation center. So I think that's the first place to start, where universities need to focus, so not just on their core business, which they should, which is the research, but also diversify beyond that to include innovation as a priority for them as well. So setting up the right kind of structures, labs for testing, and I do understand that within universities, you're already running on a thin budget, especially with public universities. So you may not always have the resources to set up these fancy laboratories to do all this testing, which is where now I think universities also now maybe need to grow the scale of maybe a bit of BD, of funding, where you come up with proposals, good value propositions, and send them out in networks like this, where you have industry players, So that's another muscle I think academia or research needs to build, that BD aspect of it. Another one, which I think Pam just mentioned, is the dissemination. So fine, all this info is there. The only thing is, we in our sector will not go to those books or those science directs to be looking for that information. And even how it's written is not in a way that we understand, So we have to, find ways of disseminating that information in avenues where we digest or consume information, whether it's events like this, whether it's events that are always hosted annually, Africa for what, there are always these kind of events where industry players are. And then 2, translate that information in a manner that we're able to understand it. So we get it, for research, you need to have the methodology, the algorithms and whatnot. But trust me, that will just go, over everyone's head. So it's if you need capacity building, I know this is maybe a skill that would have to be taught, so it's not always there. Even we have to learn in the sector. So it's maybe getting that capacity building from internally or a mentor or someone just to help you do that translation to make it more business investor friendly, you know. And also I'd say finally it's having sessions like this where you bring the industry players together to understand the challenges. And we could even do it at university level. I know University of Nairobi normally have this innovation week where they showcase, they bring the students who showcase their innovations and their research, and then they bring industry partners to assess this sort of things. So it's making these sessions of bringing the industry together and academia together, either at the university level or within our sort of spaces. So I think, so that way we're able to understand what's happening in that sector, and you're also able to understand what we require on this side. Yeah.
Right. Doc Musembi, we've spoken that one of the things, and I think you're the one who raised it, when industry players are talking about return on investment, that one of the things is that research takes too long. You know, you could be researching, we've heard you saying about something that was being researched over a period of 5 years at Oxford, for example. We've had drugs being researched over 10 years, 20 years, malaria, HIV, AIDS, et cetera, et cetera. So how do we improve, and maybe the HIV one is not a very good example because, this is a pandemic, et cetera. But then how can we improve the timeliness of research in meeting the innovation ecosystem needs? Because industry moves fast. Today you have M-Pesa, tomorrow it's doing something else, the other day it's paying bills, the other day you have a pay bill, then you have a till, then you now have a pochi la biashara. Things move very quickly within that in industry. How do we match, how do we bridge that gap of research timeliness?
Thanks, Caroline. Now, one thing we need to understand is that research does not happen in isolation. And believe it or not, the other day I was speaking to the director of the company in the US, and they said that what they are researching now will not get into the market until 20 years from now. They can tell you what the car will be looking like 30 years from now. That is what they're testing, that is what they're researching on. So having said that, and given that now the research environment, it is very critical that when we are researching, it needs to be tied to a need, and that need needs to be very well classified. And I think I heard it from her, where she said, okay, this research, is it meeting an immediate need? Is this research to meet a need for a company that is envisioning that is where they want to be 10 years from now? And so, just like any contract, if you give me a contract in your office and you told me you want to network all the computers by tomorrow, that limits me to working with what is currently available. And so I will network your computers by tomorrow morning. However, if the thinking is 20 years from now, how should we speak to each other, communicate and transfer information, then the research that is being done now, there's the understanding that it is not needed in the market tomorrow. Now, if we have the needs very well defined as we write our proposals, and this goes back to what I think most of the people here have alluded to, evaluating the market need. When you're developing your proposal at that level is, other than just sticking to your objectives, is take the bigger picture, and then what? Yeah? Where is this research eventually going to be applied? Is it going to be applied to meet an immediate need? Or is this research not ready for the market for the next 10 years? And that way you'll be able to identify the right people to walk with you that journey of that research. And so essentially when you say industry moves fast, they're possibly taking up technology, thinking and research that started 20 years ago. Think about it when you look at computer science. Many people would probably think computer science is a thing of the last 5 years or 10 years. It's not. Computer science started in 1950. It is in 1983 that the internet was birthed. And this is when now computers are speaking with each other. And we have Google Drive. I can work on a document in Kenya and somebody else in the US. When did that begin? In 1950. So if we understand the process of research and we understand this is what the industry needs to deliver today, tomorrow, 10 years from now, then we can structure the work so that 10 years from now, if it was a technology that was being developed, it has had time to be tested over time. And so tomorrow we'll wake up and we'll find this company has innovated and it is producing a new quality thing. But it did not use technology that was made by a PhD student last year. No, clearly it wasn't. And I think if we understand that, and we understand that of industry, and we work together to develop projects, and we define the need, I want this solution tomorrow. Then as a researcher with PhD students, definitely even when we are doing the work plans, I will know this work, this section of the work, the results are needed in a year. So who is the right person to do this? Perhaps a master's student. These results are required in 3 years. Then that work can be done by a PhD student. These results are needed tomorrow. It means I do the work, right? Because the students, one of the difficulties they'll say is that when you look at the university is the approval process. Now this is where I say the university is training ground, and so there are regulations on how we train. And those approval processes are not ad hoc processes that a university just came up and they said that you need to have your proposal peer reviewed at the department, then it goes to the school, then it goes to graduate school, and then it does what? No. That is a process laid down by education regulators. So not unless you're telling us we do away with those processes are not going anywhere. They are here to stay. Your proposal will be written, it will be read 4 times before it is approved. But as a responsible and responsive university, then the pressure is on us to accelerate the process. And we appreciate that, and every day becomes an improvement. How do we get your proposal from conception to approval in the shortest time possible? And so as a student, you understand that. And as a supervisor, I understand that. And if I'm working with a partner, then we will structure the work depending on how quickly you need the results. Thank you.
I think for me personally, that's one of my key takeaways from today, how you have debunked the idea that industry moves fast. It's actually moving on research that was done in the past. And I remember stories told that the reason why Pampers, Huggies, etc. actually came up with diapers, was it in the 90s, was because research started in the 50s when space researchers asked themselves, if we send astronauts out into space for a long time, how will they relieve themselves? So they need something that they can wear on their bodies. And through that research is when now we started, we now found diapers, you know, with all the different brands. So it's not that they invented something for the industry now. They relied on research that was age old. And I think for me, that's my biggest takeaway. It's not that industry is moving fast, it's that we have to think of research of immediate, mid-term, long-term needs.
Could I add something small?
Yes.
That is from the research point, and then from an innovation point, whereby now we take research as innovation. It follows the same route. There is the basic research, which usually does not happen a lot in the developing countries because we do not even have the funding for it. We don't have those big labs where these wealthy people give in. The other day I had one of the universities got some funding where everyone is not going to pay school fees. You know that? Yeah. So they do have those kinds of people who come up and give those kinds of money and they use it for research. Now, innovations comes in 2 points. There is revolutionary innovation and evolutionary innovation. Revolutionary innovation, the process will take longer. But in our context, we like the Safaricom's and it is more of incremental adaptive innovations. We take what is there and we quickly add something based on what the market wants. Next month, we hear that the market now wants this, so we add something to what is already going on. They're adaptive. So those are the kind of innovations we are likely to do, and we would even encourage that more of, if you get into the bandwagon of that kind of innovation, you are able to actually commercialize it faster and get what you need to get. But you must be very keen to look out for what are the current problems and how can they be adapted into what is currently going on.
Thank you so much. Asante sana. Tyler, finally, this is my final question. We all know that we are here because we are celebrating International Women's Day tomorrow, which is the 8th of March. And we keep talking about representation and why representation matters. So for me, my final question for you, Tyler, would be what opportunities exist for women researchers in the innovation ecosystem, and what steps should be taken to increase that representation as a way of winding up this discussion?
Limitless opportunities exist. I mean, hopefully the venture capital funding to women numbers can't get worse. So, like, that's only happening here. Oh, no, that's a thing to say. What needs to happen? I mean, I'll kind of turn that back on the room. I think this is full of women who have research that they want to realize. And so I think two things I'd leave this room with. One is find a champion, find a mentor, find someone who can connect you to industry and open doors. And I will say, people are so much more willing to help than you realize. When I first moved back to Nairobi, I moved here without a job, and I just sent cold emails to people on LinkedIn and had 80 coffees that people said yes to for no reason. So people will say yes more than you think they will. People are really willing to help. Find a champion. And the second is, what do they say? The journey of 1,000 kilometers starts with one step, right? Like, start with that step. I know startups who tried to test a product idea by putting out a flyer with a website and a phone number. They didn't even have the product yet. They just wanted to see how many hits the website would get and like how many WhatsApps they would get, right? So there are really easy, low fidelity ways, affordable ways, to test an idea before you dive all in. So also think about like, how can you kind of get creative and like, what are the baby steps you can break the realization process down into and test it along the way and along that process and build the credibility and the validation and the traction throughout the journey. So I may have cheated in that one a little bit, but I think that's what can be done to achieve those limitless opportunities.
Thank you so much, Alenda, and I would say that is a beautiful note to end this on. Please join me in thanking our panelists. From the far end, Tyler Karahalios, the Chief of Staff at Delta 40. And then we have Sarah Kanda, who is from GIAP. We have Dr. Susan Musembi, who is a lecturer at the Kenyatta University, and Dr. Pamela Mreji, who is the Director of the Center of Innovation and Tech Transfer at the Technical University of Kenya. Let's give our panelists a big hand. And I would also like to thank those that have made it possible for us to be here. A special thanks to the Riser Fund, MasterCard Foundation, Hewlett Foundation, and Imaginable Futures, because those are the ones that support our work as the Mawazo Institute. So a hand clap to them as well. And thank you, everyone. So I don't know if we have any questions or any comments. If people want to add their thoughts to the discussion we've had so that we are talking together, not talking at you, this is the chance for you. We have a roving mic somewhere. You can ask any of our panelists your questions. You can direct your comments at them and they'll be happy to respond.
Thanks, Caroline. And thanks, panelists. Sorry, I'll hand over to you just now. We had a question in the chat on the live stream that was directed at Dr. Susan Musembi. I thought it would be good to just start with this one, and then we can move over to the non-live stream questions. One of the live streamers asked, called Rachel Ikawa, asked, how accessible is the KU Innovation Center to non-students? Non-students. Yes, yes.
As a public institution, we are mandated to take in 30% of non-students. And I can tell you right now the quota is full. All you need to do is get onto the website, Kenyatta University Chandaria Innovation Incubation Center, find the tab application, and like I said, all you need is an idea. So go through the list and write down, give the info about your idea. There's a selection criteria, definitely, but we get back to you. If you do not meet the selection criteria of where here, innovation, what is unique, that takes on very more points than anything else, because we want to drive unique things, unique ideas. So we really need to see you bring out what is unique about your idea, because there's no idea that's bad. Then once selected, a shortlist is done, and you do come for an oral interview so that we better understand your idea. And once that happens, then you come on board. Being a public institution, we do not charge. So that is part of the requirement of that institution. We are a public institution, so we also serve the public. Right now, the 30% quota is full, but I'm sure there's always space for one more. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So as the mic passes, just introduce yourself, and then you can go and ask the question. Oh, do you have a question?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Agnes Tuma. I'm from the Riser Fund, and I'm happy to be here. I'm going to move forward. I'm sorry, I came in late, but I tried to grasp as much as I could, and I have about 7 points. Very enthusiastic about the conversation and everything that was going out there. Happy to see you, Dr. Sembi. Happy to see you, Dr. Pamela. At least I know the two. And great to meet you all and everyone in the room. Right. So one, how many people know about unconscious gender bias? Unconscious gender bias. Yes. Yeah, so during the conversation, I could really hear a lot of that. And for me, I call it unconscious gender bias. Sometimes I feel it's positive or negative, I don't know. But that is something that we women suffer, and it affects us, and we lose out on so many opportunities because of that. So for me, all of them are comments, no questions from me, they're just comments. So panelists, relax. And good job. So that's one thing we just need to look out when we go out there, and attaching that to it is let's speak up, let's be bold, and let's go out there and talk. And I need to commend Mawazo. They've created this space for us. It's a safe space. I was reading their report, and I was really touched to see that they'd go the extra mile to go in and support the researcher beyond what they even committed to do, with counseling and support. I'm reading the Mawazo Digest, and I'm seeing lots that is going on there. And for me, that's a space, and I hope that we can have more people create that space, even in organizations, such that women who get into leadership positions still have the space to go back to someone and speak to them and get that support and encouragement. That's around unconscious gender bias, and us just second-guessing ourselves. Will I really make it? And that is why they don't go to Dr. Pamela to get that support, you know, when it comes to innovation, because does it really make sense? Am I really an innovator? Just questioning yourself about everything. And then again, people questioning themselves, does she really know what she's doing? Will she really be that? That's unconscious gender bias. Number two, how can we leverage our alumni, right from Mawazo, right from our universities, to be able to penetrate industry? And can we use our alumni not to give us opportunities for internships and attachment, but alumni to open up their industries to be more receptive, to tell us where are their pain points? Yeah? I want to commend Kenyatta University. They're doing something quite interesting. I just learned about it yesterday in the biomedical engineering department. They are coming up with a master's program, but this master's program is going to be quite outward facing because they are going to be working closely with industry from the word go. The students will work hand in hand with industry to come up with solutions that will be automatically taken up and commercialized. And one way I would look at it is we are building a workforce that is ready to be taken up, that is quickly employable. That is very critical because that's the gap that Dr. Pamela is talking about in our innovation organizations and agencies in government. Number three is collaboration. And for me, I see collaboration, and you talked about it, Sarah, around how can we leverage the aggregators, academia, and industry working together. By the way, it's not going to be easy to get industry to open up. And like you said, they are very busy. They want quick solutions. And reality, you just mentioned it, is they are working with solutions that were worked on 5 years ago. So how then do we use the aggregators? I seem to see them gel faster with industry than academia. It's the harsh reality. So how do we work very closely with the hubs, with the enterprise support organizations to help us penetrate industry? For me, the backbone here is if we can be able to hack that penetration into industry and getting to solve their solutions, then we'll commercialize, then we'll be in business. I'm almost done, I'm sorry. And then I think talking about policy and I like the fact that you said policy is there and it's inexistent. I think I just want to challenge us. Go out there, don't stop reaching out to these organizations. But I like the fact that you talked about in-house policies. As much as we have national government policies going on, the in-house policies that we need to set up that would be able to facilitate and encourage uptake of women researchers in these leadership roles, as well as providing them with access to finance and all these other challenges. I think I'm going to stop there, but thank you very much.
I don't know if I should stand. Okay. My name is Faith Chomtai from Akili Dada. I am a jack of all trades at the moment and working at the African Mental Health Research and Training Foundation. I have learned a lot in regards to how research has made a holistic impact in our communities. And making an example on the Arrow Village project by Dr. Thomas Lambo. He used the limited resources to make something out of nothing. So I want to encourage each and every one of us to use the little resources that we have to make an impact in our societies. And let's not forget the communities there. Because the community itself, they know what's happening and they know what's best for them. So to work in a holistic environment, we should consider the community, then reach out to now the investors. Yeah, thank you.
It's still morning or afternoon? Morning. Good morning, everyone. My name is Marilyn. I am an alumni of the Mawazo PhD Scholars Program, and I'm just happy to be here and happy to listen to this conversation. Thank you, panelists, for the enlightening. Mine comes from perhaps where there was a question that you asked, what is the problem? What the dialogue between women researchers and investors? And could be that we see, from where we see our work could be more impact research. And we think the investor wants return, the return on this money I'm putting. Am I going to get monetary returns back? So is there a space for investing in research that's mostly maybe impact research, not necessarily the return being in terms of money back? Yes. So that's perhaps where I believe we start from. Our research may not be necessarily translating to a commercial product or a commercial output or something, but impact, yeah.
I mean, I could take that, and there is. In the sector where I work, for example, so not all the work that we do has to translate to economic value for the investor. So we have people called impact investors who their main goal is to focus on impact for the communities. Then the benefits that come therein, the profits are the second priority, but the impact comes first. And there are many avenues. For example, when you implement a program, there's always that part about the monitoring and evaluation, right? Trying to understand and to measure these impacts. Sometimes there's a gap. We don't know how to phrase or to do the modeling that's required to sort of anticipate the kind of impacts that we want to see. So we want someone who has expertise, for example, in maybe modeling, in how to do a good monitoring and evaluation program, so we're actually able to track those impacts. So it's not enough to just say, fine, you're going to fund you to implement this social program. We also have to be able to track how the money was actually used. And that in itself is research. How do we track these impacts? And some of these impacts are long-term. So you have your immediate short-term impacts where it's you're supposed to reach, maybe 100 women, they're supposed to give them access to finance. And you're supposed to go a step further and understand how did that access to finance impact them, their families, and their community. And that takes time. That in itself is research. So there are many other examples I could give, but yes, there are many avenues, and that's just an example of how we need that sort of expertise. Yeah.
My response to you, stop thinking. Stop thinking what your research is, how your research is to be commercialized, whether it is social or a product. That is why innovation centers exist. That is why we are here. And simply by making that disclosure and even taking a walk to the innovation center where you say, okay, I'm a social entrepreneur, I want to gather into that space, we are obligated to provide to you the correct network. And I know in KU right now, maybe we've not built up the social entrepreneurship incubation space, but I do know Strathmore do. And we have, we understand a lot of the incubation centers and what their mandate are. And it is possible, and it is our responsibility to connect you and tell you, okay, this is your idea, it falls into this space, and perhaps it's best, let's link you up to the right person who can guide you. So if one of the reasons you're holding back your ideas is because you've already made the conclusion that we are only looking for products that will translate to shillings, profits, and all that, no. Please approach the innovation center that is closest to you, and I'm sure there will be somebody there who will direct you to the right innovation center that is going to give you the right support for your idea. Thank you.
I think Marilyn is she's being very modest because she, I'm going to be very open about this because she's one of our Mawazo alumni. She is in a research group that have created an AI chatbot through research, through mathematical modeling, because that's her area of expertise, that is actually being piloted right now. And this is a chatbot that has been specifically created for young people in HIV education, because we know young people, the numbers are very high in terms of new infections. They don't go to hospital, they don't trust adults, in some ways they feel very isolated. So this chatbot has actually been directed at them. It gives them this, information, where to go for this, where to go for advice, where to go for test kits, etc. And I don't know, I don't want to speak for you, Marilyn. Perhaps the reason she's asking this is because that invention, which is now being piloted in 2 counties, is not necessarily, because it's a public health issue, HIV has always been a public health issue, may not necessarily have ROI that is in terms of shillings and cents, but it's at a different level. I'm not speaking for you, but I suppose that's one of the reasons. But I really wanted to speak and say that, you know, she shouldn't be sitting there just looking all. She's doing this really groundbreaking, you know, thing within the HIV and health space. And I just thought to, you know, I had to jump in and say that about her work.
May I tap in? Yes, please. I mean, first of all, that's absolutely incredible. Thank you. It's such important work that you're doing. I would also say to take a step back and there's different organization structures and different kinds of capital for those. So I actually do think there's some really real ways where you could commercialize from a shillings and cents perspective that solution. But idea agnostic, right? Perhaps the best platform for that is that it's a public service, or it's an NGO, or that it's a social enterprise. And there's different types of capital for those organizational structures. Maybe it gets housed under a foundation, or you access grants or public funding. Maybe there's impact investors that come in, right? You must be solving a problem, to what has been said here earlier, right? But I do think the type of organization and the types of capital are important to noodle on a little bit, but those will come too. And I actually discourage, I caution entrepreneurs of getting on what I call the venture hamster wheel. Can you bootstrap? Can you access other kinds of capital? Like, venture is a very niche asset class, and it's sexy, sure, kind of. It's like a really hard uphill battle also. And there are other amazing ways to build an organization that has impact that isn't part of the 90% of startups that fail, right? So don't let that, don't let worrying about necessarily the profit mechanism at the end of the day stop you from entering into that journey, because there might be very amazing ways that you can never even imagine, partnership opportunities that come to fund this solution in the meantime.
Marilyn, I think you should. Yes.
Just something small on the same aspect. I wanted to say that even for the impact investors, we have ROI. It's only that the ROI will be in terms of the impact. We measure, instead of measuring the profits and everything, we now measure the impact. So we now have parameters for actually measuring the impact, and that will be our return on the investment. So it will all, and also when we use the word commercializing, it might look like we are looking for profits, but even that one will still commercialize, only that the profits that are made are in terms of expanding whatever you're doing. So the words would still, they may sound so hardcore, but it's actually, they cut across. Thank you.
It's called SROI, social return on investment. So they focus on the impact itself.
Any other questions?
Okay, so my name is Lois Ndambi, a current Mawazo fellow. And I think I want to bring it out like, women, I think nature suffocates us. Like, when you come out and you're a woman, there's that kind of feeling that, and that stays there. That's one thing. Number two, you really need someone to come and tell you this kind of feeling that you have should not stand out. You can do something. And I thank Mawazo for doing this, because I understand the first few days when we started up, there was something like you want to realize, who am I? And why am I here? Am I able, whatever I'm thinking, is it right? And that thing really worked a lot. And I think there are also people out there who have serious, great ideas, but no one has come out to tell them what you're thinking is right, because nature suffocates us. So some people will die with the potential. And that's sometimes, I think, in the medical field, there's something we call support. It's called support groups. And these support groups comes one person who has undergone through a certain thing or a certain, like for example, if I'm a TB survivor, then I'll be joined with people who are suffering from TB, and I will tell them, you know what? You can get healed, you can still move on, this medication you can take, and you'll be okay. So this is a support group. And if this can come in for several women, then I think we can go up and they'll be like, oh, I can shine again. Another thing is that, I may sound like a fool, but I have always thought innovative centers are something very different. Now today I'm enlightened that, oh, this is a place meant for someone to go and people are ready to listen to you and grow up an idea. I'm even getting to understand there's a public and private sector innovation hub. And it's a great idea that there are many resources out here which are meant to help us, but we don't know where to go because we don't know if this disease can be healed. So thank you so much for having this kind of forum because it enlightens us and we can have them on different places and reach different people. Even in the universities, we can still have them and continue the talk. Thank you so much.
May I? What was your name again? Lois, thank you so much for your vulnerability and your honesty. I really appreciate that, and I think that's what happens when you bring a room of women together. And I want to touch on one thing that you said really quickly, that nature suffocates us. And I think, at least the way I like to think about that is perhaps society has not always been the nicest to women, but that nature has gifted us with each other, with empathy, with intuition and resilience. And we are at an incredible time where we get to change society. And you mentioned that some people will die with their potential, but so many more people now have a Lewis in their life to look up to, right? And I find that reframe puts power back in our hands. When it's not, right, that nature from the outset is necessarily suffocating us, but it's these structures that society put in place that we are standing on the shoulders of many generations of women who came before us to continue to dismantle and reshape. I'm so grateful to be in this room of women who are championing that and being a part of that. But anyway, I just wanted to share my 2 cents, but thank you.
Hello. I was gonna say almost the same thing, but I think the name we are looking for is heuristics, right? So our brain creates shortcuts of this imaginable things that we think we're not capable of. And I feel for me, I'm a testament to giving grace to women. We got ideas just the other day. We started inheriting land just the other day. So even women not feeling confident enough should not be a metric to remove them from or not listen to them, So I was in a class, I majored in computer science. I'm sorry, I didn't say my name. Shirley, and I work for Mawazo. I majored in computer science. We were 13 out of 120 students, and by the second year, we were only 8. So there was this class called data structures, and if any of you know computer science, that's like the foundational aspects of computer science. And this woman always was like, come present to me, and if you don't want to do it in class, you can come to my office. There's that initiative, there's that follow-up. So I would never step up, like I want to answer a question then. But because I've been given this insistent, consistent platform, like, it's okay, if you're shy, you can come to my office. It worked. And now at Mawazo, I also have bosses like, Shirley, you have a lot of potential. Do you want to speak to someone else? Or you can go get this from this person. So I am a testament of being in an environment where I have been encouraged to be more confident. So even picking up this microphone was like, should I speak, should I not? so it works, but we also need grace, and we also need to realize it takes time. Men have had so much time to grow in confidence. From the moment they are born, they have value. We have to learn our value, and we have to accept that we need to give each other grace, even in the spaces of becoming researchers. So I'm an aspiring researcher. I never thought I'd want to go back to school, but I think I will. Yeah, thank you.
Good morning. Shirley and I share the feeling of, do I really need to speak? My name is Anne. I'm here courtesy of Akili Dada that mentored me through university to be a more confident leader, and I'm glad it worked. So just to answer your question, Dr. Susan, you asked what would it take for women to share their stories or to share their innovations with the world. I think for me, a person who's been on the journey of entrepreneurship since university, when we innovated and presented to panels and our ideas were taken from us, quite illegal, right? But we do not have someone who tells us, hey, you can share. And once you share, it's not like we're going to steal this from you. We are actually going to walk the journey with you, finance you, educate you, because we don't all come knowledgeable in the field of business. We need the information on how do we make this work, how do we make it profitable, how do we do our market research, how do we communicate with our target audience, right? Another question would be, what are the metrics of qualifications for these different incubators? Because sometimes you set out to apply, but you don't really know what they're looking for. So your idea seems validated in different spaces, but in other spaces it's sort of, no, this does not work. And I've been part of a program that disqualified me in the first week, but luckily miscommunicated. So they moved me to the next level, but they also rejected me. And then when I raised it, they were like, okay, it's a miscommunication, you can proceed to the next level. And I went ahead to get the award, to win the award. So it's quite conflicting. I guess thank you. What would help is having those metrics defined from the very beginning. So we are not moving in gray areas. Yeah, thank you.
We have room for one more final question, and then we will wind up this panel and move on to the next item on our agenda.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
It's so nice to be in a room full of women pioneers. So my name is Catherine. I'm the Voices Program Associate here at the Mawazo. I have a question for Dr. Musembi. You mentioned earlier that often research takes time, that whatever innovations we are witnessing right now, whatever output we are seeing is something that has been built for decades. I'd like to, of course, also reference something that happened during the pandemic. We had a group of university researchers who developed ventilator systems, and from Kenyatta University. So when they did this, eventually their product was kind of thrown out. I think there was some bureaucratic situation there, and they did not proceed to I think, actualize that kind of research, to make meaning of it. And some years went, and of course they kind of spoke up and said that they were suppressed by government policy. So I have two questions on that. Being the head of the Chandara Innovation Center, like what kind of steps did you take to perhaps protect these young researchers? And it ties back to what that young lady has mentioned, that we have, there's a lot of abuse. The system is not exactly fostering innovation, especially from young researchers who are often taken advantage of. So I think for me, what I would ask is, the sort of steps you have taken to at least, ensure that such a thing perhaps doesn't happen again. And of course, speaking to the broader concept of, pandemics, being that was tied to a pandemic, perhaps at the Innovation Center, and of course also tied to Dr. Pamela, she could also answer this one. What are you maybe looking in terms of how we can ensure that we prepare ourselves well for the next pandemic. I'm talking perhaps something that would be tied to healthcare. So how are these innovation centers, how are the university, these innovation spaces, how are they exactly getting ready for what might happen, and to sort of prevent that kind of top-down, global north, global south extraction of ideas, technologies, and stuff like that. How can we, as Kenya, be ready for that? Thank you so much.
Okay, I'll try and combine what you have said with hers and speaks and also define. So I think, let me combine what you're saying about protecting the young innovator, and also this is in the context of where you've made a presentation and then your idea gets stolen. That can be a very, very painful and discouraging experience, but right now we are also learning how to better protect our innovators, and there's one thing that also works against us as researchers. As researchers, we are trained that the moment you find a discovery, it's publish or perish, and be the first to announce it. However, for those who are in IP, we also know that the first to file is the one who owns it. So what are we doing in that context? We sensitize the university community continuously, and that is why I'm saying disclosure is the first challenge. So there is the tendency of researchers just wanting to work and work and work, and they're waiting for that eureka moment. And then when you get to the eureka moment, you're so excited, you're in the press, you're publishing, you've gone to conferences, and you just missed out a very simple step. Visit your IP office. Disclose what you have, what you're coming up with. And the IP office has the potential to engage with patent examiners who will look and see identify what is a commercializable aspect of your idea and what is a patentable aspect, because the two are not necessarily equal to each other, the same. Now, if you do have a patent office, then you visit, and disclosure, as you're doing those eureka things, it is important as a researcher you disclose so that they walk the journey with you, and when they need to file, they file. Then I know in universities currently where there's an IP implication in any kind of research, your thesis is not published. It is not made public. So those are some of the system processes inherent that are being established in universities. I know in KU we have established it. We have an IP policy, and we developed our IP policy long before even national government got a public IP policy. And by looking at these spaces as an institution, we build best practice. We look around what's going on, and the institution actually makes it, takes it upon themselves to develop policies at institutional level that will help protect their researchers. Now, so what does that call for? Disclosure. Please get in touch with your IP offices, even at proposal level. I did a study the other day because I also happen to be in our Center of Research Ethics, and IP is one of the issues. I did a study among universities in Kenya, and there are very few universities that have processes that guide researchers on due diligence. When you're underwriting a contract with another partner, you need to do due diligence, and when you're signing your contract agreements, none of us reads the small print where your collaborator has said, I own the IP. You're so excited to get the contract, and you don't even think about it, you just sign, but you don't negotiate the IP. So when the IP, and maybe you didn't even think there would be IP, and sometimes IP, you set out doing research and you didn't even think you were going to come across IP, and then the IP happens. So we are encouraging university administration systems to set up due diligence systems for their researchers and support them to be able to read through their contracts and strengthen the sort of agreement they sign with other partners. And many of our universities don't have those systems in place. They're just happy to sign the contract. I have been awarded, and tomorrow on my CV, I am PI on this grant, and I am so happy, I am in the press. That is the way we do it, but that is the way we've been trained to behave. Now, from an entrepreneurship and innovation angle, I'm very sorry if you ever made a presentation of an idea to anyone who stole your idea. That is totally unethical. But now, through the innovation incubation centers, I review so many ideas. And for me to be in that innovation center, the first thing I sign is an NDA. And I am bound by that non-disclosure agreement within the university and outside of the university. If, let's say now you talk to me about your idea, I am not obligated to discuss your idea with anybody. I cannot. If I need to, I need to ask you permission for that. But that is at university level. How about you? Before you go and make a presentation, tone down your excitement that you have gotten an interview with an industry partner. Remember, everyone there is out to win, right? So by the time you disclose your idea, and this is now where the training comes in the incubation center, how do you behave when you go to meet an industry partner? We have people, you have an idea, you've gone to an industry partner, and you're there, laying your schematics of your design. It's part of your pitch. No, wait. Yeah, first of all, even you were there to find out if industry would be interested. So why are you showing them your schematics and they've not even told you that they're interested? So that gauge the interest, and then when they're like, I think we're interested, then the next thing, what would it be? Non-disclosure. I'm going a non-disclosure agreement. So I'm going to tell you what I know, you show me yours, I show you mine. So that is what we train the incubates. Those are the steps we help. And at times, they even need to go with a lawyer. And we use the university lawyers to do that. They engage, they sit with you, you're negotiating, you want to talk to industry. Right now, I have a company that is negotiating to test a system. Yeah? And now, it's beyond me, even as a mentor. A lawyer has to come in, read the agreement. As a startup, as a founder, you probably don't have that facility. So we use the university lawyers to look at your contracts and sit with you and walk with you and tell you, here, before you disclose this, please make sure you have a non-disclosure agreement. I hope I've responded to that. So it's good for you to be in an incubation center because those are the services that are offered. And if we don't have them in-house, we outsource. And we outsource now from such partners because we could have an MOU with an organization that has that facility, and from that MOU, we send you there, they work with you.
I will say lawyers are really expensive.
Yes, yes. Yeah, lawyers are very expensive. Use the university one. Now, let me talk about the metrics of qualifications. All incubation centers have different metrics for incubation. Number one, you'll find some incubation centers are sectorial. They will want to work with clean energy. Now, this is where you have to do evaluation. That she kept saying, if you see a call, and there's a call that is asking for clean energy, and you're working on biotechnology, you're transforming a plant, surely you have a fantastic idea, but the wrong audience. Yeah? So respond to calls, knowing what they are looking for, and then evaluate your idea to see if it fits. That is one way of getting to know the metrics. I'll speak about Chandaria Innovation Center. We are keen on driving innovation, and so even when you're doing that innovation, you need to be very clear in yourself, is this an innovation or not? There are many times we have had ideas from people who have just gone to the internet and found an idea from someone in Australia who was implementing it. Then they apply to the center. And so when we ask them, what is the innovation here? They tell you, it has never been done in Kenya. But you're like, but that is not your, that's not the innovation, it's not your idea. And there's nothing with you trying to translate it here. So a lot of the ideas that come actually sometimes are not even new. So we need to understand, even as researchers, when you classify what is new, she had a very definite, a very distinct definition of innovation that it is already in the market. But we apply it a little bit loosely in our case. We ask ourselves, what is new about what you're doing? Are you just doing something the same way and you've just changed here and here? So it's good to evaluate your idea and try and pinpoint what is new. Like, for example, this pen. In manufacturing, perhaps they're using molds. Yeah? Then you want to come and say you want to manufacture the same pen using 3D printing. What's the innovation? So the innovation is a process. Yeah? So try and understand what is new. And at times, perhaps it's just not the elements being new, it is the way you have combined elements that already exist to give a different alternative product, to improve a process. Yeah? So in the Innovation Center, at least at Chandaria, we also invest a lot of time working with faculty and students so that they are able to pick out innovation so that when they're developing their idea, at least they're very clear that I am doing and I am contributing by doing something new. It does not need to be an invention. It could just be the way you're putting things, different already existing elements together. So we do that. That's an entrepreneurship training open to students and faculty. It is a non-credit. That's why we said we need to work with individuals who are willing to move out of their comfort zones, who are willing to put in the effort. So this is a non-credit training. So what we've seen with students, the first thing they ask, am I getting credit? Then they're like, no, there's no credit. Then they back out. Because maybe they are thinking, I need to spend, I'm only going to spend my time on something that will end up on my degree certificate. And we don't even issue certificates, by the way, when we do the training. We say the certificate is the idea that you're going to develop. What is better than that idea that you're going to move forward? Or a paper that means absolutely nothing. Yeah, so please invest in yourselves. And there are many of these programs that are running in your universities. But students don't turn up for it. And not just students, even faculty don't turn up for it. We have corporate sponsors who come with entrepreneurship training, who are happy to be there to help to train on innovation and entrepreneurship. But the commitment from faculty, from students, still remains to be very, very low. And it's, I don't know why. So that's why I asked the students, why don't you turn up? Why don't you enroll? I know time is a factor as a postgraduate student, but we need to move out of our comfort zones. We need to be ready to put in the work. The opportunities are there. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I hope I've answered your questions.
Thank you so very briefly, because we had 2 other items on the program, and it appears we might have to kill our darlings.
Her third question, I answered the third question, right? Okay. The one that was logical readiness for events like the COVID-19. So this question is a question to do with something we call absorptive capacity. Do we have absorptive capacity, the capacity to learn in that area very fast and be able to do what they are doing outside there? The answer currently is probably no. And if you notice, most of these people who do vaccine, they're partnering a lot with the institutions in the West Africa. The reason is they already have absorptive capacity along that line. These people are people who've had laboratories dealing, they have a lot of malaria, because I said innovation is socially constructed. So they've already been having a lot of funding going into research on malaria in their labs, and that is almost having adequate absorptive capacity to continue that path for like coming up with this. For us, it doesn't mean that we are cut off. We are not technologically out of it, but we are just below in the path. We could also use the word technological upgrading. So we are well, in Kenya we are well upgraded as far as IT transformations are concerned, the Silicon Savannah. But when it comes to the health sector, and things to do with like COVID-19, malaria, they are likely to go to a country that have the absorptive capacity, people who can be able to have adequate capacity to understand and install what they are currently doing. So I guess that also goes back to our policy. We need to be able to start asking ourselves now, the next thing that comes may not be COVID. It could be anything else that disrupts us. But so which means we need to invest in basic research, we need to invest in R&D in our higher education institution, so that whatever the shock may come from, we should be able to actually have the capacity to quickly come up with something that can assist our people. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And perhaps also the question is how to repurpose, because everybody now assumes the ventilators were only for COVID. But the ventilators were because people were having difficulties with certain bodily functions, which don't end with COVID. We still have shortage of ventilators across the country anyway. Yes. You wanted to add something?
I remember about the ventilator story. There's something else you need to understand, that the process of commercialization, there are very many key actors that come into play. Let us look at, first of all, standards and regulators. Then I will talk about specifically, let's say, about the ventilator. Now, the ventilator needed to go through a pathway to commercialization. And other than just putting the parts together of the ventilator, it requires to go through clinical studies to answer some questions in terms of safety and effectiveness. Now, those structures at the time in Kenya were not there. And having personally interacted, not with the ventilator, but other COVID-related innovations, it came to our attention that when we went to register some of the innovations with the poisons and pharmacy boards, because that is the process, you need to go through the regulators, and we tried to fill out what the innovations are, there are just certain things that were not structured to accept innovations from in-country, because they would ask, who has certified this? Give us the name of the institution that has certified this. So we are here and we are like, we're in Kenya, I thought you're the one who certifies. And then that duplication of roles, and sometimes not knowing which institution should perform which role. So we had these components. So PPB would say it's KEBS. PPB means Pharmacy and Poisons Board, and they certify biomedical devices as well as other pharmaceuticals. So at some point it would be PPB saying, no, ventilator, that's mechanical, etc., those are KEBS. Or someone, then KEBS would be, no, that is biomedical, it's PPB. So it actually also revealed a lot of gaps between our regulatory organizations. Then at times also, now the other thing is when you're developing something, is that quality standard within your country. And the way KEBS works is if that thing is not manufactured, then they have not yet developed the quality standards. So sometimes innovations are way ahead the quality standards that have come, and that is why you see sometimes, that is why an innovation will not get into the country. So what are we doing about it? Again, right from the time the innovation is being developed, is factor in all those things, quality control, so that when you're designing your innovation, you know what are the quality parameters that are required. And where will you get the quality parameters? You're not going to develop them yourself. You'll take a walk to KEBS and say, I'm looking for the quality parameters of this. And you will know immediately from the start that, oh, KEBS don't have it. And so what is the next thing? Can we develop this together? Collaboration and co-creation. So there's a lot more that goes to commercialization and innovation, not just saying I have it. There's quality control, there's regulatory requirements. KEBS need to come and inspect your sites if you want to do a manufacturing thing. PPB needs to do all that. And that is some of the information that innovators don't have. And by being in an incubation center, those are the things. Now, when I am working with you one-on-one, there's a checklist. Is there a regulatory requirement for your innovation? What does that mean? You, as the innovator, now needs to move out of your comfort zone and do the market research. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We had one final comment from someone in the audience, if I'm not wrong. This is the very final one because we've completely run out of time. So we will ask you to be brief, please.
It's just a piece of information. There's an innovators guidebook on matters intellectual property rights that is available. Anza Village have developed this with support from government and FCDO. Please have a look at it. You'll get a lot, and Anza Village supports. They actually have lawyers there who support innovators. So, and what Musembi is saying, it's very important to be affiliated to either a hub or a university to get some of this support. You can't do it alone. That's very critical. And then I think the last thing I'll just request all of us to do, we have gained a lot from this session. Can we just go to our social media handles, and can we just post one key takeaway out there? All of us, please, let's just write. And when you write, just say something about Mawazo so that somebody out there can be able to access the support they're providing. Thanks.
Thank you so much. We were just about to say that, but thank you so much for saying so well. We have come to the end of this panel, and perhaps we have taken too much of the time that was allocated to other things. I really want to end this by saying thank you so much to our panelists, and to end with one thing that Tyler said. We are here because we stand on the shoulders of giants. Women that came before us, women who were brave enough to come out of their comfort zones. I remember I decided to do a PhD because my grandmother went to the UK in the 1960s to pursue a master's, and I thought if she could do that in the 60s from a community that did not encourage women to even go to basic schooling, who am I if she has paved this road and I'm sitting here like doing what? So we are here because other women that came before us actually went to the trouble of showing us the path. They were bushwhacking, and now we have to build the roads ourselves, right? And then maybe the other women coming after us will build the super highways and all those things. But we are here because we stand on the shoulders of giants. I will hand this back over to Elaine Mungai. Elaine?
Thanks everyone. Panelists, you're welcome to leave the stage. Thank you so much for that wonderful and really engaging session. Wonderfully enlightening. And my apologies for starting late, but I think even if the panel conversation went on, I think it was such a rich conversation, and so glad for all the insights we've gained from Tyler, Sarah, Dr. Susan, and Dr. Pamela. So we'll have a small change in our agenda. I think most of the conversations that have been captured here will have already sort of answered the questions that we wanted to have in our workshop discussions. And I think we've had really rich conversations over the last 2 days in our workshops that sort of sought to understand the challenges faced by women in these innovation ecosystems, and transferring the questions and the lens to the industry in understanding what do they really want from researchers. And the conversation here today has done this really great job of putting everybody in the room, and I think now the researchers are not only those in our network, and even aspiring researchers are now really encouraged to see that the innovation ecosystem players really do want to work with them, and they're specifically programming and creating avenues for women to come in with their great ideas. And so I think I'll just close off with a vote of thanks, saying thank you to everybody who joined us today. It was wonderful to have you all in the room. A very special thank you to our panelists. Sarah Kanda from GIAP, we literally conceptualized this event together over a call in November last year with our CEO, Dr. Fiona Muyas, who's not here with us. And over another call in January, sort of brought this together. And she asked us hard questions like, what do you mean by innovation ecosystem? Who are these innovation players that you want to, bring into the room? And Sarah, thank you so much. We couldn't have done this without you, so thank you. And Dr. Susan Musembi, who we've had conversations on research to commercialization since, 2021. Thank you for joining us today and just learning such rich insights on the room for researchers and women researchers in the innovation ecosystem. And Dr. Pamela Reggie, who we've partnered with, thanks to the Riser Fund, to
conduct workshops for African women researchers in this research to commercialization space. And so thank you so much, Dr. Pamela, for joining us. We also have representation from some of our newest partners, the African Women Leaders Network, who are represented here as well through their Young Women's Caucus. We are really trying to ensure that the work that we are doing at Mawazo penetrates the continent, and the voices of women researchers and the impact that their research is doing gets to the people who need to know about it. So thank you so much. And we're also represented by Akili Dada as well. I think you heard some of the really young, brilliant minds in the room from their ladies network. And so thank you so much to the Akili Dada Sisterhood for joining us. And of course, our funders, Riser Fund, MasterCard Foundation, FCDO, and the Imaginable Futures. And to all of you for coming in. I think for the team, it's been a really intense week of a lot of discussions, but really rich conversations across the board. And we are really encouraged to really keep on pushing the envelope with the women who are doing research. And so for now, I'd like to welcome you to coffee and networking session. We have some snacks available. Please, our fellows and alumni who are doing this incredible research and developing this incredible research innovations are also in the room with us today. We have Dr. Marilyn, who asked the fantastic question, working on the AI chatbots. Stella, who is creating biodegradable plastics from macadamia nut shells. We have Lois, who's developing easy-to-use cervical cancer test, and we have Jora as well. So please just interact with them, ask them questions about their research, and thank you again for joining us, and happy International Women's Day. We also have some of our alumni who will be participating in an interview today on International Women's Day on KTN. Please dial in at 2 p.m. to hear some of their views. So thank you.